I got a wrong call at 2 a.m. on a Tuesday night in March, and the voice on the other end, soft, trembling, desperate whispered words that stopped my heart cold. Please come over and be with me tonight. My name is Carter Bennett. I'm 29 years old. I work as a freelance graphic designer in Seattle, and I live alone in a studio apartment that smells like microwaved leftovers and forgotten dreams. I was 3 beers deep into a Netflix binge, trying to numb the anniversary of my younger brother's death, when my phone lit up the darkness. Unknown number. I almost didn't answer, but something in the way it kept ringing, persistent, pleading, made me pick up. Derek, her voice cracked like glass. Derek, please. I can't do this alone tonight. I found something and I'm losing my mind and I need you here. Please come over and be with me tonight. I'm not Derek. But before I could say that, I heard it, the sound of someone trying not to completely shatter. A gulp of wine, a stifled sob. The kind of breaking that happens when you've held everything together for too long and the last thread just snapped. I know it's late, she whispered. And God, that whisper, it wasn't seductive. It was survival. I know I have no right to call after what happened between us, but I'm in my mother's house and there are secrets in these walls. Derek, and I just found out my entire life has been a lie, and I'm terrified that if I'm alone one more second, her breath caught. Please, just tonight, I need someone to tell me I'm not going crazy. Every instinct screamed, hang up, go back to your show, this isn't your problem. But I'd spent 1,247 nights alone since my brother died. I knew exactly what that kind of lonely sounded like. The kind that makes 2 a.m. feel like the longest hour of your life. The kind that makes you call the wrong person, just so a voice, any voice, can pull you back from the edge. Where are you? I heard myself say. She gave me an address in Bellevue. 30 minutes away, I grabbed my keys. The rain hit my windshield like bullets as I merged onto I-90, the highway empty except for a few semi-trucks hauling through the darkness. My headlights carved tunnels through the storm, and my hands gripped the steering wheel so tight my knuckles went white. What the hell was I doing? Driving half an hour in the middle of the night to meet a woman whose name I didn't even know. A woman who thought I was someone named Derek. A woman who'd whispered, please come over and be with me tonight. Like those 7 words were the only thing standing between her and complete collapse. I should have corrected her. Should have said, ma'am, you've got the wrong number. I'm not Derek. I'm just some guy who designs logos for tech startups and hasn't had a meaningful conversation in 6 months. But I didn't, because when she said, I just found out my entire life has been a lie, something inside me snapped to attention. I knew that feeling. The night the hospital called about my brother Ethan, the night they told me the car accident was actually a suicide, I'd stood in my apartment at 3 a.m. holding his note, and the whole world tilted sideways. Everything I thought I knew about him, about us, about why he smiled at Thanksgiving dinner 3 days before he died, it all turned to smoke. So yeah, I kept driving. The GPS led me off the highway into one of those perfect suburban neighborhoods, where every lawn looks like it's measured with a ruler and every house has a 2-car garage and a decorative wreath on the door. I pulled up to 4,782 Maple Ridge Drive, a 2-story colonial with white shutters and a porch light that made the rain look like falling diamonds. The lights were on inside. All of them. Like someone was trying to fight off the darkness with every switch in the house. I sat in my car for a full minute, engine running, wipers thumping. My phone was still in my hand. I could text her, tell her the truth. Hey, I'm not Derek. Sorry. Wrong number. Hope you're okay. But before I could type a word, the front door opened. And there she stood. She was maybe 34, 35, with dark auburn hair that fell past her shoulders in messy waves, like she'd been running her hands through it all night. She wore gray sweatpants and an oversized cream sweater that hung off one shoulder. No makeup, red-rimmed eyes, a wine glass dangling from her left hand, half empty. She looked at my car through the rain, and even from 20 feet away, I could see her face exhausted, raw, and so desperately hopeful it made my chest hurt. She raised her hand, a small wave, like she was greeting someone she'd been waiting for her whole life. I turned off the engine. I stepped out into the rain. and it soaked through my hoodie in seconds. Cold, sharp, real. She didn't move from the doorway, just stood there, backlit by the warm glow of the house, staring at me like I was a ghost she'd summoned and couldn't quite believe had shown up. "Derek?" she whispered. And that's when I should have said it. Should have told her the truth right there on the porch while the rain poured down and we were still strangers. But I didn't. Because when I got closer, close enough to see the tear tracks on her cheeks and the way her hands were trembling around that wine glass, I saw something in her eyes that I recognized. It was the same look I'd seen in my own mirror for the past 3 years. The look of someone who's holding on by their fingernails. The look of someone who just needs one person, anyone, to show up and say, "You're not alone." "Yeah," I said quietly. "It's me." She let out a breath that sounded like she'd been holding it for hours. Relief washed over her face, and then she started crying. Not loud, just these silent tears that rolled down her cheeks as she stepped forward and wrapped her arms around me. She smelled like lavender and wine and something sweet I couldn't name. Her whole body shook. "Thank you," she breathed into my chest. "Thank you for coming. I didn't think you would. After everything I said to you, after I told you I never wanted to see you again." My heart slammed against my ribs. She thought I was her ex-fiancé, the one she caught cheating, the one she cut out of her life 8 months ago. And here I was, standing on her porch in the rain, letting her believe I was him. This was wrong, so wrong. But her arms were around me, and she was crying, and I could feel every ounce of pain radiating off her like heat. "Come inside," she whispered, pulling back and wiping her eyes. "Please, I need to show you something." She led me through the front door into a house that felt frozen in time. Family photos covered the walls, graduation pictures, vacation snapshots, a woman who looked like an older version of her standing in a garden. Everything was neat, too neat, like a museum of a life that used to exist. "My mom died 3 weeks ago," she said, walking toward the kitchen. Her voice was steadier now, but brittle. "Heart attack. She was 58, healthy, no warning, just collapsed in the grocery store." "I'm so sorry," I said, and I meant it. She poured herself more wine, then looked at me. "You want some?" I nodded. She handed me a glass. "I've been going through her things," she continued, leaning against the counter, "packing up the house, trying to figure out what to keep, what to donate. And tonight, I was in the attic, and I found a box, a locked box hidden under the floorboards." Her hands started shaking again. Inside were hospital records, birth certificates, and a journal. She set down her wine glass and picked up a leather-bound notebook from the counter. Her fingers traced the worn cover. "I had a twin sister, Derek." The words hung in the air like smoke. Her name was Miranda. She died 20 minutes after we were born. And no one, not my mom, not my dad before he died, not my aunts or grandma, no one ever told me. Her voice cracked. 34 years. I've lived 34 years not knowing I was supposed to be a twin. That I came into this world with someone, and she left, and I've been half of something my whole life without even knowing it. She opened the journal, her hands trembling so badly the pages rustled. But that's not even the worst part. She looked up at me, and her eyes were wild, desperate. My mom wrote in here that she blamed me, that Miranda was healthier, that the doctors said if they'd had to choose, they would have saved Miranda. But I lived, and she died, and my mom spent 34 years looking at me and wishing it had been the other way around. A sob ripped out of her throat. She wrote it. "Derek, every time I look at Meredith, I see the daughter I lost. I see the ghost of what should have been." The journal slipped from her hands and hit the floor. And that's when she completely broke.
She collapsed against the counter, and I caught her before she could fall. Her whole body shook with sobs that sounded like they were tearing her apart from the inside. I didn't think. I just held her, my arms wrapped around her shoulders, and she buried her face in my chest, crying so hard she couldn't breathe. Her fingers gripped my hoodie like I was the only solid thing in a world that had just dissolved beneath her feet. "I spent my whole life trying to make her proud," she gasped between sobs. "Every perfect grade, every award, every time I smiled for a family photo, I thought if I was good enough, she'd love me. But she was looking at me and seeing a ghost, wishing I was someone else, wishing I was dead instead. That's not true, I said, and my voice came out rougher than I intended. You don't know that's what she felt every day. People write things when they're grieving, when they're angry. It doesn't mean... It's in her handwriting, Derek. She pulled back, her face streaked with tears and mascara she must have forgotten she was wearing. 20 pages, years of entries. She never got over it, and I never knew. I never knew I wasn't enough. I should have told her then. Should have said, I'm not Derek. I'm a stranger who answered a wrong number because I knew what it felt like to be alone at 2 a.m. But looking at her, at this woman whose entire identity had shattered in one night, I couldn't do it. If I told her the truth now, she'd realize she'd poured her heart out to a complete stranger. She'd feel violated, humiliated, more alone than before. So I made a choice. You are enough, I said, cupping her face in my hands. Whatever your mom wrote, whatever she felt in her darkest moments, it doesn't define you. You're here, you're alive, and that matters. Her eyes searched mine, desperate for something to hold on to. Stay with me tonight, she whispered. I can't be alone with this, please. I nodded. She led me to the living room, and we sat. On the couch, surrounded by boxes of her mother's belongings, photo albums, old dishes wrapped in newspaper, a lifetime packed into cardboard. She curled into my side, her head on my shoulder, and we sat in silence while the rain hammered the windows. At some point, she started talking. Not about the journal, about everything else. Her childhood in this house, how she'd always felt like something was missing but could never name it, how she'd thrown herself into photography, capturing other people's joy because she couldn't find her own. I photograph weddings, she said softly. I've shot 237 weddings in the last 8 years. I know every angle, every moment, the first look, the vows, the father-daughter dance. I can make people cry with a single photo, but I've never had that for myself. She paused. I thought I would. With you. With Derek. My stomach twisted. I had my dress picked out, the venue booked. I'd already designed the invitations, and then I came home early from a shoot one Saturday and you were in our bed with Jessica, my maid of honor. Her voice didn't break this time. It just went flat. You both looked at me like I'd interrupted something inconvenient, not like you'd destroyed me, just inconvenient. I wanted to tell her I wasn't him, that whoever Derek was, he was an idiot who'd lost something irreplaceable. But instead, I just tightened my arm around her shoulders. I'm sorry, I said, and I meant it for Derek, for her mom, for every person who'd made her feel like she wasn't enough. She tilted her head up, looking at me with those red-rimmed eyes. Why did you really come tonight? After what I said to you, after I told you I hated you? My heart hammered. Because, I said carefully, nobody should face something like this alone. She stared at me for a long moment, and I saw something shift in her expression, confusion, then recognition. Her body went rigid against mine. Wait, she whispered. She, pulling back. Her eyes narrowed, scanning my face like she was seeing me for the first time. Your voice. It's different. And your eyes. Derek's eyes are blue. Yours are... She touched my face, her fingers trembling. Who are you? My throat closed up. The moment I'd been dreading since I walked through her door had arrived. I'm Carter, I said quietly. Carter Bennett. You called the wrong number. The color drained from her face. She scrambled off the couch, stumbling backward, her hand flying to her mouth. Oh my God, oh my God. Her voice climbed higher. You're not, you let me. I told you everything. I showed you my mother's journal. I cried in your arms and you're a complete stranger. I know how this sounds. Get out. Her voice shook with fury and humiliation. Get out of my house right now. Meredith, please just listen. How do you know my name? She grabbed the wine bottle off the table like a weapon. Did you go through my things? Are you some kind of psychopath who preys on women at 2 a.m.? No. I came because you were breaking, and I've been there. The words rushed out of me. 3 years ago, my little brother killed himself, drove his car into a concrete barrier going 90 miles an hour, and he left a note that said he'd been planning it for months, while we were eating Thanksgiving dinner, while he was laughing at my jokes, while I thought everything was fine. He was already gone, and I didn't see it. My voice cracked. So when you called tonight, sobbing about secrets and not wanting to be alone, I couldn't just hang up, because I know what it's like when your whole world turns into a lie, when the people you love the most become strangers. I should have told you immediately that I wasn't Derek. I know that. But you were falling apart, and I thought if I corrected you, you'd hang up and hurt yourself, or worse, so I made a stupid choice. I came. And I'm sorry. The wine bottle lowered slightly. Tears streamed down her face. You had no right, she whispered, but her voice had lost its edge. You're right. I didn't. I stayed where I was, giving her space. But I'm glad I came, because you're not crazy, and you're not a replacement for someone who died. You're Meredith Holloway. You've photographed 237 weddings. You make people cry with a single photo. You survived a mother who couldn't process her grief and a fiancé who didn't deserve you. And you're still standing here at 3 a.m. fighting. That's not nothing. She sank onto the arm of the couch, the bottle slipping from her hands onto the carpet. I don't even know you, she said, but it sounded more like a question than a statement. No, I agreed. But maybe that's why it was easier to tell me. No history, no expectations, just two people who've been broken trying to make it through one really terrible night. She looked at the journal on the floor, then back at me. Something softened in her expression. She was still angry, still hurt, but underneath, I saw a flicker of understanding. Carter, she said, testing my real name. That's really your name? Yeah, she wiped her eyes with her sleeve. I'm a mess. Me too. A long silence stretched between us. Rain still pattered against the windows. The clock on the mantel ticked toward 4 a.m. Finally, she took a shaky breath. Will you stay until sunrise, just so I'm not alone with all of this? I nodded. Yeah, I can do that. We sat on opposite ends of the couch this time, a careful distance between us. But as the night bled into dawn, we started talking. Real talking. I told her about Ethan, how he'd taught me to skateboard, how he'd always ordered pineapple on pizza just to annoy me, how I still couldn't delete his number from my phone. She told me about growing up in this house, always feeling like she was performing, always chasing approval that never came. When the first light crept through the curtains, soft and gray, she looked different, still exhausted, still raw, but not as shattered. Thank you, she said as I stood to leave, for coming, even though you weren't who I thought you were. Maybe especially because of that. I paused at the door. You going to be okay? She looked around the house, the boxes, the photos, the journal still lying on the floor. I don't know, but I'm not alone anymore, even if it was just for one night. That matters. I wrote my real number on a piece of paper and left it on the table. If you ever need to talk, or if you just need someone to tell you you're not crazy, call me. The right number this time. She picked it up, a small smile tugging at her lips. Carter Bennett, graphic designer, brother of Ethan, rescuer of women who drunk dial strangers at 2 a.m. That's me. I walked to my car as the rain finally stopped. The neighborhood was waking up, porch lights flickering off, someone getting their newspaper, normal life resuming. But I felt different, lighter, somehow. Like I'd finally done something that mattered. 2 weeks later, my phone buzzed, a text from an unknown number. Coffee? I promise I have the right number this time. Meredith? I smiled. Yeah, I'd like that. Because sometimes the wrong call at 2 a.m. turns out to be exactly the right one. Sometimes a stranger shows up in the rain and reminds you that you're worth showing up for. And sometimes the people who save us are the ones we never saw coming. I got a wrong call at 2 a.m. and she whispered, "Please come over and be with me tonight." I went, and neither of us has been alone since. So that's my story. A wrong call at 2 a.m. that changed everything, a whisper in the dark that led to something real. Now I want to hear from you. Where are you watching this from right now? Are you in Seattle like me, New York, maybe somewhere across the ocean in London or Sydney? Drop your city or country in the comments below. I love seeing how far these stories travel and connecting with all of you from around the world. And if this story moved you, if it made you feel something, please hit that subscribe button right now. This channel is all about real stories, raw emotions, and the moments that change us when we least expect it. I post new stories every week, and trust me, you don't want to miss what's coming next. Also, and this is important, click that notification bell. Turn it on so YouTube actually tells you when I upload. Because these stories, they're meant to find you exactly when you need them. Just like that call found me at 2 a.m. Thank you for watching, thank you for being here, and remember, sometimes the wrong number is exactly the right call. I'll see you in the next one.